Band-Aid on your nose. So.
Good evening and welcome to the Marty Heiser Show. Thanks you so much for joining us. You know, we have a really exciting show. We're going to hear from the ever effervescent and interesting Bob Burke, who has a lot to say about Bethel, Connecticut and the upcoming election. We're also going to hear from two members of the Republican Party in the town of Ridgefield, John V. Palermo and Stephen Curry, who are running for the Board of Finance. And it'll be very interesting to hear what they have to say. But you know, before we go to that, I just want to share with you something that was really tugged at my heartstrings. It's a video about a little known story that happened on 9/11, and that was the boat rescue from the southern end of Manhattan. You know, we've all seen the pictures of the towers coming down and people streaming forward. And I have to be honest with you, earlier this week, I heard our president say that Americans have become soft. And that somehow as a result of this, it's our fault and we become soft. When I saw this video, I saw the true grit of not just Americans, but Americans in and around New York City, and I was touched. We're going to open with this video. I hope you get the same reaction that I did. Bear with us as we have a little technical difficulty as we start this video. It's very compelling.
I thought I was watching a movie, Towering Inferno at first, and then I looked real close.
Thank you, Peter.
And I noticed it was the World Trade.
We're having a little bit of technical difficulty as we get queued up on this video. I apologize for that. It's compelling stuff. We'll try it one more time, otherwise we'll go straight to Bob Burke. You know what we're going to do? David Sorrow is the director of the show, and we're going to have that video queued up for you next week. I apologize for that technical difficulty, and we're going to play it back because what it captures is the story about the men and women that were on the water on the Hudson River and in New York Harbor on 9/11. And it was the largest water rescue in the history of Western civilization. They used to have Dunkirk was the largest water rescue up until then, but they estimated 500,000 people were rescued off the southern tip of Manhattan as a result of spontaneously leisure crafts and tugboats and ferries coming spontaneously to help those that were stranded on the southern end of Manhattan. No one knew what else was going to happen. No one knew how much difficulty that they were in. And it was just a compelling video, and we will have that for you next week. I apologize for the technical difficulty. As you know, this is all volunteer. We're working just as best as we can. Maybe you could take care of this and just shut it off. But while we do that, we are delighted to be joined by Bob Burke. Bob, I'm sorry for the technical difficulty.
No problem.
I appreciate you so much coming in. And we had the other candidates that have been on the show in the past. And how is the campaign going in Bethel, and what do you see coming next?
It's been very quiet because they're waiting to see what I'm going to do.
Really? Well, what are you going to do?
Well, we're starting to put our signs out, and we're coming on the Marty Heiser Show.
Okay, well, that might I don't know if that's good or bad. Now, let me say this. I have asked your fellow candidates, Knickerbocker and Cleary. They're at the top of the ticket. I've asked them to come on. We've kept open November 3rd for a debate, but they seem a little bit leery to come on and debate you. They seem a little leery.
Why?
Well, I don't really get it from either of them. I think both parties, the Democratic Party and the Republican Party, want to somehow say to themselves, Bob Burke doesn't exist. Let's just ignore him, and maybe it'll go away like a bad headache.
That's exactly what they're trying to do.
Uh-huh.
Their strategy, they're working out of fear and reaction.
Right.
I'm not working out of fear and reaction.
Okay.
I know exactly what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
I organized the Connecticut Tea Party with Mr. Cernick.
Right, uh-huh.
Several other good men, Mr. Bellardinelli, Mr. Gaylord, your own Kevin Gallagher that works here,
Right.
Mr. Monroe, and Sal from Front Street,
Right.
which is one of the restaurants in our downtown area, have all joined forces with me, and we put together a good slate of candidates. We will have representation in every area. The Tea Party will become, for the first time, an actual organized party within the state of Connecticut.
Okay.
Become the Connecticut Tea Party. You have Tea Party patriots. Everybody kind of works with in the shadow of the Republican Party.
Right.
But the Republican Party isn't getting it done.
Yeah.
Even
I mean,
on
do you
a
think that's
national
on
level.
okay, I was going to say a national level and
And at state level.
Okay.
I mean, you have a super majority in this state with the Democratic Party within Hartford.
Right.
It's time for a third-party situation. And if you really think about a third-party situation, Abraham Lincoln started the Republican Party. It was a third-party situation.
Right.
The Bull Moose wasn't quite as effective with Teddy Roosevelt.
Yes.
Mr. Perot wasn't effective. But
Yeah.
we're on our way.
Okay.
We're going to use forms of media now. We're going to communicate to 7,000 people every week.
Right.
We will be on certain specified TV shows.
Right.
Yours being one of them.
Okay.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Sure. And by the way, if you want to,
I'll debate in a heartbeat.
oh yeah,
Because not debate, I'll tell the people the truth and allow them to vote.
All right.
It was the hallmark of my 4 years tenure.
Okay, here's the classic beef against you. And by the way, if we can put the phone number up, if you dial 438-2003, you can join the discussion. I think Kevin Gallagher tried to join. I'm all thumbs when it comes to technology, so I'm juggling all this stuff, and I'm only getting it half done. That's why I'm so glad David Sorrow is here, because he's our director. You know David. He's
quite
going to
well.
tighten everything up, and it's going to be great. But right now, if you want to join the discussion, don't hesitate to call 438-2003. It's on the screen right now. And you, in the protection of your own home, because some people feel like if you're in the room with Bob Burke, he could jump on you and tackle you or something like that. But if not, then that's a big problem. This is a mic they want you to use. But this is the classic beef. You are going to split the conservative Republican vote, or we're gonna, and then that's going to mean that Knickerbocker is going to get back in there, and we're going to have a Democrat in there as a result of you guys splitting the vote. Do you think that's accurate?
Which one do you want me to it doesn't matter. If I don't
okay.
run, you will have a Democrat. Mr.
Right.
Clary was a Democrat until 5 days before the Republican caucus.
Right, I understand
So,
that.
I mean, he was on, excuse me.
Go ahead.
This is fun.
I know. It's public television, so this is what we do. Tell you what, we're going to do right
He
now.
was on your show. Let me
Right.
do this. Let's not be silly. I'll use
Okay.
this as a microphone. How do they hear me?
Okay. Excellent.
Are we okay? We're good. All right. We were on, Mr. Clary was on your show last week.
Right.
He made it very clear that he was he changed in April
Right.
to the Republican Party.
All right.
The Republicans would do anything to keep me from getting elected. That's what they did in the last election.
Right.
It was very much a great surprise to them in the height of a huge scandal,
Right.
which they tried to fuel any way they could, that I got 1,300 votes.
Right.
Those 1,300 votes are still there. You've had an administration that has not worked effectively,
Right.
even though he sends out literature, because he's an advertising man,
Right.
that appears that he's done wonderful things.
Right.
The only thing he's really done is brought a farm market to the front of the town hall,
Right.
which he charges nothing for, and competes with your local merchants.
All right.
It's nice to have fresh vegetables.
Sure.
I kind of believe that you don't, if they're going to sell it in the front yard,
Right.
let them,
Okay.
that won't work on there. Let them,
Well, what we have for those Bethel voters that are tuning in tonight, we have a situation where you have a three-way race. You have Knickerbocker, who's the Democrat. He's in office right now. The reason he's in office, I don't even think he got a majority of the vote. He got a plurality of the vote because the Republican or conservative vote was split between Mr. Burke and the candidate from the Republican Party. So now you roll the clock forward another 2 years, and you have the same situation. For those of you that feel like, wow, things aren't being run right, maybe the Democratic Party tends to tax and spend a little bit too much. I'm more of a conservative way of thinking. Well, at this point, you're torn between two candidates, Bob Burke or Mr. Cleary. And that's really what you're up against.
Well, let me be real clear. Mr. Cleary served with me as a minority representative for the Democratic Party for 2 years.
Right.
He voted against everything that I put forward. He voted against splitting the budget. He voted against bringing a private organization in to run our transfer station,
I understand.
which would have paid
Right,
the town of Bethel $500,000 a year.
Right, okay.
Instead, Mr. Zakowski and Mr. Clary voted against it,
Okay.
so it never made it to the people,
And this would have been a net $500,000 benefit to the taxpayers of Bethel.
as opposed to a $200,000 loss.
Okay.
Well, now it's even deeper in debt.
All right.
Mr. Knickerbocker's solution was a typical Democratic remedy: raise the fee, charge more. Now the taxpayer is still carrying the burden there.
All right.
All right. The same thing with the sewer that Mrs. Novacek passed for the Stony Hill Sewer Project. $19 million inadequate.
Okay.
Mrs. Hutchison had it $1 million over budget.
Right. Okay.
I brought it back to in line with budget.
Right.
I left office. It was still behind because it was $2 million underfunded to start with.
Okay.
It's still $2 million underfunded. It's actually $3 million underfunded, and they've tapped the general fund to pay for the Stony Hill Sewer bond issue, and every day that they stop, they're paying interest and nothing's getting done. Not a single piece of pipe has been put in the ground.
Okay. Here's a couple questions. We've had people that have emailed in questions. And this is a person, there's a question number one. Mr. Burke and Mr. Cernak keep talking about how they are taxpayer friendly, and they cite the low tax increases during Burke's tenure. Yet Mr. Burke has not yet explained how town spending and Bethel budget increased over $7.7 million during his first 3 years in office. He keeps covering this up with the argument of low tax increases, but fails to address...
Signed by who? Mr. Gaeta?
Yes, as a matter of fact.
Mr.
Yeah.
Gaeta.
Hold on one second. Let me just finish. Low taxes, but fails to address the issue of his spending hikes and lack of leadership in trying to keep spending increase at a minimum. And this was sent in by
Mr. Gaeta.
Mr. Gaeta, that is correct.
All right. Mr. Gaeta is a very confused individual. He has a bunker in his house and thinks the world's going to come to an end. So, Chicken Little, let me say this.
Okay.
I hid nothing. The town side of government is what I present to the Board of Finance. His hero, Mr. Clary, for 2 years was the chairman of the Board of Finance.
Okay.
So all of those increases in the first 2 years, which were the heaviest of my administration,
Right.
were on Mr. Clary's back. The way town government...
Well, let me just take you on that. You were the senior executive in the town.
That's correct.
Right? So the
but
buck
Board
stops
of
with you.
The Board of Finance controls the budget. When you have a Department of Education who asks for a certain amount and increases that every year annually by over $1 million.
Okay.
All right?
Right.
I have no control over that.
Okay, so you're saying there's
I can try to
$7.7 million
combat. I'm saying that the Board of Finance has total control. You're the chairman of a Board of Finance.
I was, but yes,
But you have control over the finances. Your selectmen ask for a certain amount. They review. In Bethel, the Board of Selectmen and the Board of Finance hear everything together.
Right.
Then the Board of Selectmen come back and accept whatever they're going to do.
Okay, but
And
Bob,
bring it to the Board of Finance.
You fancy yourself an independent, rugged, strong
am.
guy. So it's on your watch that the increase in
And the
taxes and
last
spending went
year-
up, and you're saying it wasn't me, it was those dastardly guys on the Board of Finance.
Board of
Didn't you have
Finance,
some control over this spending
They
going
increased my budgets the first 2 years.
up? So you asked for 10,000, they said, I'm giving you 12?
No, they said to the Board of Education they would give them more.
So on the
All
town
right.
side, did budget increases under your...
The last year of my administration,
Right.
I zeroed a budget. The Board of Finance added $460,000 to the education side of budget, which was no longer a zero.
Okay.
At that point, the problem that I made very clear to people was this. You haven't even gotten your insurance quotes. The town side had their insurance quotes in November and December. Their quotes were not in March when we went to the people. All of a sudden, they came in 600,000 over. So the zero that I gave the Board of Education was then brought back when they were actually $600,000 under. The Board of Finance at that point could have given the taxpayers an even bigger break. At that point, it's out of the Board of Selectmen's hands. We don't even meet on it.
So you're saying Mr. Cleary, the former Democrat who turned into a Republican.
First 2 years, he was chairman of the Board of Finance. And for 2 years before that, he was chairman of the Board of Finance. His expertise, as he said on your show last week, is clearly finance at PerkinElmer. That's where he worked, and that's what he did. And he explained how he did certain things. He also explained to you how, during the Vietnam crisis, he was in college. And then, thank God, he had a high draft number.
Right.
All right? And that's fine. I went down and signed a piece of paper and joined. Many other people did.
Okay.
It was a bad time in the history of this country. The man has no practical experience in running government. He also said that there's too many people parking their vehicles that are business people, like yourself, on their property that they pay their taxes for. So what he would do is create an ordinance that requires them to go to the Clark Industrial Park, which the town still owns, a good portion of, undeveloped, that should be developed, that I was making efforts to develop when I was in office and nobody else has, and make them pay a rent.
Okay, that's one side of the story. The other side of the story is
that's what he said on this show last
night. I know,
night.
I heard him, but he would say, and it'd be great
What
to
do you
have.
mean?
It'd be great to have
Marty.
all you guys here at the same time.
I'm ready.
Doesn't the viewing audience? Wouldn't you like
I'm
to
ready.
see that? Because
I'm ready.
But since Mr. Cleary won't appear if you're on the show, Mr. Knickerbocker won't appear if you're on the show. They're trying to pretend you're not here. Hold on. Yep, this is you. You're here. You're definitely
and
here.
And you know what?
And
never did I let somebody pay $3,000 a month for a lease, but we'll allow you to take $1,900 and pay your mortgage out of that.
Okay, well, let's take the one thing is what he would say is that you're trying to sell your house and your neighbor has a bunch of commercial vehicles, some of them up on cinder blocks because they're changing tires or whatever. It hurts the value of your house.
Did the neighbor do that before you bought the house?
Well, I don't know.
But this is the problem. The people that are here, they've been doing it for years. I can name dozens of contractors in the town.
Two more questions. I understand what you're saying. There's two sides to that, but that's fine. Mr. Burst,
what I'm saying very specifically is you pay the taxes on your property.
Right.
And certain zoning requirements, I really believe, are unconstitutional. If you're forward on your taxes and current, and the guy next door that's complaining is trying to sell his house because he's behind,
yeah,
that's not quite right.
Caller, you're on the air. Do you have a question for our guest?
Yeah, I got a couple of questions. How's it going, Marty?
Good. Al Robinson, he's the founder, publisher, and all-around, Mark Bowden
I would like to compliment.
hater.
I'd like to compliment him on his, first of all, the birth of his child.
I'm really sorry I couldn't be on the show today. I would love to, again, as in last week, love to be a part of this roundtable and talk to Mr. Burke about his campaign. Bob, I just want to say a couple of questions. I'll be as quick as possible. You have a Republican Party that endorsed a candidate who, while selectman, when you have a familiar relationship with the Republican Town Committee, was adamantly against you and Mr. Zukowski.
100%
I recall,
all the time.
I talked to Cleary last week, and I talked to him about his defense of Jason Bartlett. And I remember because there was a local access show called Bethel Watch. If you see the selectman meeting, there's a lot of animosity between Mr. Cleary and Mr. Zukowski and the Bethel Republicans. And now he is a candidate for selectman under the Republicans, talking about how he was he criticized your budgets for the past 2 years, but those are budgets that were supported by the Bethel Republicans. What's your opinion about the Bethel Republican Town Committee? And do you think these things are becoming very personal between yourself, Mr. Enfroda, Mr. Cernick? Anybody? I know a lot of people go to the Bethel patch to read comments, to see the stuff that's going on there. It seems very personal and parties or the residents lose in the end, because it seems like it's more like a personal vendetta against individuals as opposed to talking about helping out the people of Bethel.
All right.
That's my question.
Thanks for that. And by the way, he complimented you on the birth of your son, so you got that going for you.
Hey, thanks a lot.
All right,
You
thanks.
guys take care.
All right. Yeah, what about that? I mean, you know, from outsiders looking in, you kind of wish that, you know, everyone could get along and have a group hug and play nicely in the sandbox. And is that in the end hurting the politics of Bethel because of not a majority? A majority might be conservative and Republican
What
leaning,
is hurting,
but it's being split.
not the politics. I don't care about the politics.
Right.
What's hurting the people of Bethel
Right.
is an 8% tax increase in the last 2 years.
Okay.
What's hurting the people of Bethel is a bad economy on a national level. What's hurting the people of Bethel is a lot of them don't have jobs. They're not working. And
Yeah.
the no reality amongst either party. If you go downtown Bethel to the center of Bethel and you look at the Republican and Democratic headquarters, they're right next door to each other. There's no difference. They're singing Kumbaya and working with each other. This happened before in history, and every time it happened before in history, the inbreeding that happens with that has created things like fascism, totalitarianism. It's not good because there's no check and balance. You tell me you don't agree with me.
No, I agree. I like the division of separation
It's
of powers.
good.
I like check and balance. I think it's important.
On a
Obviously.
national level, you have a president say you vote for this and you vote
Let
for
me
it
ask
right
you something
now.
else, because this is something that comes up over and over again, and I don't even know how to put a title to it. But what about the kind of, don't take this the wrong way because you're a big guy, but what about this kind of what I would call the kook factor, the kook, some things that you've
Who's
been
the
involved
kook?
with.
I'm the kook?
This is, yeah, and I hate to have you defend your kookness, but I mean, what about that? When I talk to you, I see you. You seem like a reasonable guy.
And Proda says this: I'm a redneck.
Well,
My neck
that's
red?
not all bad. I mean, even if it is, I think it's a.
He doesn't even know where the
definition.
definition of redneck comes from.
Well,
But let me tell you this.
But I guess that's what he's saying. If there's a guy next door who's got his, pickup truck on cinder blocks, you'd rather defend that guy than the guy, the kind of yuppie next door who's trying to sell his house. You represent, old time Bethel and
The
not these
yuppie has the
interlopers.
right to live in his house the way he lives in his house.
Right.
He pays his taxes. He's present with them. He can do that.
Okay.
The guy next door can live the way he wants to live.
Wow.
And that we have a Bill of Rights.
Okay.
10 amendments that clearly state what you can and cannot do.
Well, I know, but there are local ordinance about abandoned vehicles
they can
and
try
things like that.
to oppose that. But there are local ordinance. Ridgefield at one time tried to ban all colored signs, and then finally a smart lawyer stopped that.
Really?
Well, you have colored signs in Ridgefield now. You
Yeah,
didn't have them. They were all
yeah.
supposed to be black and white.
Yeah, I know.
There are communities that have tried to do this.
Yeah.
And sooner or later somebody
But,
says
I mean,
enough is enough.
With our vast viewing audience, such as it is, I mean,
How vast is it?
I'm not sure, to be honest with you. I'm not,
We know Mr. Gate is watching.
Yeah, we know Mr. Gates is watching. We know some other people are watching.
Al Robinson is watching.
Al Robinson's watching, and for whatever reason, the other candidates are very.
But Al
fine to
brought up
appear
a
with
very
you.
good point. How does this happen? Mr. Cleary voted against us tooth and nail for 2 years.
Right.
He did the same thing the 2 years before that when he was chairman of the Democratic-led town committee.
Right.
Okay? When the Republicans finally got control, under my administrations and the Board of Education, Mr. Knickerbocker ran the Board of Education for several years, never gave back to the town more than $123. Under my time, we gave back $40,000, $50,000, $60,000.
You know what I'm afraid is going to happen? I'm afraid a lot of people are going to vote for you.
They are.
I think a lot of people are going to vote for Mr. Cleary and his running mate. And I think just a little bit more percentage of the people are going to vote for Knickerbocker, and Knickerbocker is going to be reelected.
Well,
and at some level, I think that's okay with you.
It is not okay with me. I'm
Okay.
in it, and I'm in it to win.
Okay.
That's what happened 3 years ago, or 2 years ago, with the three-party situation in the height of a major scandal. That scandal's done. That scandal's dismissed.
Okay.
It's finished.
Which scandal are you talking about?
Well, they had me stalking somebody that wasn't true.
This is getting back to that whole kook factor thing, which I'm trying to dispel.
The kook factor
Yeah.
has been brought in by the Republican Party taking all the shots in the world they could at me.
All right.
I live in Bethel. I was not born in Bethel. I was raised in Bethel.
Yeah.
From the time I was 3 years old. That gives me 61 years there.
Yeah.
Mr. Clary, I don't think, is 60 years old, so he doesn't have as much time in rank as I do. Mr. Knickerbocker comes from Detroit.
Uh-huh.
How does Detroit look in today's world?
Well, I don't know if we can lay that at Mr. Knickerbocker's feet.
That's where
But
he's
look,
from. That's
I'm
where
a
he was
Republican.
brought up. That's
I
where he
like
was
conservative values. I like keeping government limited. I think the government's best.
Can we
government's
count on
least.
you for a contribution
You
to the
can-
Connecticut Tea Party?
Unfortunately, I'm broke. Because I'm out there, I'm not quite broke, but getting close. I'm working hard. But I like the
$5,
conservative.
$10, Marty. It's not much.
I like the conservative point of view. I think it's the right.
42 Beth Page, Bethel, Connecticut.
All right, but I'm
06801.
saying, but it
Mailing
grieves
address.
me. It grieves me to see whether it was Perot or whether it was Teddy Roosevelt back in, whatever it was, 1909. The Bull Moose
No, it
Party,
wasn't
and he was
9.
popular.
It wasn't 9.
Okay, wait. He was elected. McKinley was
12.
shot in.
He was in.
19.
He left office.
I don't know. Went over to Africa
He did it.
and got malaria and came back.
No, malaria he got in South America.
Okay, but I'm
what I heard
saying.
he
You
was.
see what I'm saying?
But the Bull
I mean, that's a blight
Do
on
you
his
realize
legacy.
Teddy
'Cause
Roosevelt at one time was shot?
No, I know.
And
He was giving
continued
a
his
speech.
for 2 hours.
I know.
While he was bleeding.
He continued his speech, but he knew he didn't spit up blood from his lungs, so he knew he didn't.
Let me
didn't
explain
finish the
to
thing.
you.
But I think that's a blight on
That's
his.
the kook factor.
Oh yeah, I mean, if you want to be kooky like Teddy, then I
Absolutely.
applaud that kookiness.
Absolutely.
But I think it's a blight on his record
Mr.
that
Kennedy.
he tried to go against the Republican Party, split the vote, and that's where we got.
Was not a blight on his record.
It was. It
You
led
had
us
Taft
into World
in there and he
War I.
wasn't doing a good job. That did not lead us into World War I.
I
What
think-
led us into
no, it was
World
Woodrow
War I
Wilson
was
got
the
in there.
imbalances in the European government.
Okay.
Woodrow Wilson got in and was not a strong.
But
he was a
Woodrow Wilson
progressive.
would not have gotten in if Teddy Roosevelt had not gone with this Bull Moose Party.
And what do you
'cause the
think Teddy
300-pounder
Roosevelt would
who
have done?
basically would put Chris Christie to.
Do you think Teddy Roosevelt would have stayed out of World War I? Not in a heartbeat.
Probably not, but we did lose the presidency as a result. Mr. Gallagher, you're up.
Hey, how are you?
Good, good, good.
Hey, Bob. Good to see you on TV. Kevin Gallagher here. And, Marty, just wanted to let you know we will be having an election night show. Election night starting at 8 p.m., and I know you're going to be hosting. So thank you once for covering Richfield for us.
All right, yeah, we'll get all those. And by the way, coming up next, we have Steve Curry.
When I
a
win,
wonderful
I'll
guy.
be happy to give you an interview.
Well, I remember you came in one night when you did win, and you said,
Yeah.
the Bethel people have spoken, vindicated, they don't like dirty
Exactly.
politics, I'm your guy.
Did the same thing when I lost.
You did come in. That's one thing, you do
Did
show
the same
up.
thing I did. And I'm early.
You're
Sometimes
early?
you don't even get me on the
I know,
show.
it's my bad. I apologize last time. I'm glad
I
you're
can
on
help
here.
you organize if you want
So
to.
I don't know. I think we
I
need to
did
have
it
a-
with Bethel for 4 years.
I think we do need to get the mics to work and the technical stuff. Kevin, thanks so much for calling in. We'll see you on election night. We're looking forward to it. Mr. Burke, thank you very much for coming in.
This means I'm through?
You're through.
You're done with me?
We're done. I mean, I think we've squeezed as much juice as we can out of the
No,
orange.
there's a lot more.
There's more juice?
We got watermelons, Marty.
All right. Well, listen. I wish you all the luck in the world. I will say that I wish you were just part of the Republican fold, and this thing would unveil the way it ought
It's
to.
very
in these
possible in the future the Republican fold will fold, and the Republicans will become Republicans. And
Well-
I may be a leader in that event.
Well, hey, look, we'll see it. We'll see how it all shakes out. That's the beauty of
If you
this resilient form of
if
government we have.
you liquidate in Ridgefield, you can buy big in Bethel.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I'm trying my best not to liquidate and keep a roof over my head. Thanks so much for coming in. I really
Thanks for
appreciate it.
having me,
Thanks for
seriously.
bearing with us on the microphones and the technical stuff. You're a real champ.
You got-
And the offer is still
Al
out there.
Al
Hey,
Robinson needs to come back.
Al needs to come
Sit here.
back. Enough with these babies, Al. Your wife had the baby, not you. Come on in, and she can take care of that. But sorry, that was sexist.
That was bad.
That was bad. I
Bad move.
retract everything I just said.
Incorrect.
But listen, with the invitation is still out there. Knickerbocker, if you got the guts, come on in here and debate. Cleary, if you got the guts, come on in here and debate. We will keep November 3rd open. It'll be a live televised debate. We do them very well. 1 minute opening, 1 minute closing. Questions people can call in. And that's what we want to do. And I think the viewing public, instead of having this modified Rose Garden nonsense, come on out, let's hash out these issues and, let the best man win. That's how our democracy works. You're outthinking yourself, and I don't think it's what the people of Bethel want. They want to see you. They want you to answer questions. And let's see if we can't, see what this kook factor is really at work.
Let me do the last kook thing for you. The people of Bethel want this. Don't be a turkey, vote for Berkey. That's what they want.
There you go. Thanks so much. We're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to have some very staid and cerebral Ridgefield Republicans. They wouldn't think of, there's no kook factor with a Stephen Curry. You'll meet him.
I'm very familiar with many of them.
Hi, welcome to Community Access Channel 23. Let's go on inside and see what's going on.
Dream big.
Hey, this is Big T here telling you to dream big.
Hey, at Channel 23, you can dream big and direct your own show.
Dream big.
We want you to all dream big.
We
Dream
big.
Cable Access, Channel 23, dream big.
Call us today at 203-792-1265 and find out how you can dream big at Channel 23.
Did you know that Comcast Cable provides a professional television studio to the public, along with the equipment and training necessary to produce your very own TV show? And best of all, it's free. So what is public access? Public access is people sharing ideas.
People sharing information.
Sharing the environment.
Sharing music.
Sharing dreams.
Public access is people sharing education, art,
Politics.
resources. People sharing civic pride.
Public access is people sharing fun.
Public access, it's people, just like you and me.
For more information, contact your public access studio.
See you on TV.
Their numbers are growing. More and more. More than a year ago. More than a decade ago. More people now living in this state than nearly any state in the Union. 1 out of every 8 people in America. 1 out of every 10 families in America. 1 out of every 6 children in America. 33 million Americans struggling just to remain standing. 33 million Americans teetering on the brink of hunger, sickness, hardship, uncertainty. 33 million Americans in these United States descending into poverty. And as their futures fall, so does our nation's.
On the football field, you've got to stay focused and not get distracted. The same is true on the road, so before your wireless phone becomes a distraction, take a time out for safety. In bad weather or traffic, call later, dial sensibly, and use a hands-free device. You know, your wireless phone can be your best safety tool. To call for help, stop a crime, however you use it, remember, with wireless, safety is your call.
Global warming. Some say irreversible consequences are 30 years away. 30 years? That won't affect me.
How far would you go to protect the planet?
I want you to build an ark.
Here we go. Okay, that's good. Oh, okay. Ow!
Maybe there's another way.
People, the flood is imminent. Is it too much to ask for a little precipitation?
Go to fightglobalwarming.com to find out what you and your community can do to reduce global warming pollution.
Welcome back to the Marty Heiser Show. You know, I'll tell you, love him or hate him, think he's a kook or not, that Bob Burke will show up. And I give him credit for that. I know there's folks in Bethel, primarily in the two established parties, that would like nothing more than to just lie down, take a couple aspirin, and like a bad headache, hope that Bob Burke goes away. But my sense is he's not going away. He has a real following in Bethel, and I think at the very least, Mr. Knickerbocker and Mr. Cleary should debate him, and he's ready and willing to debate, and it would be interesting to see. I know there's been issues in his life in the past, but I think there's many people that he's resonating with, and that's where he's getting his strength from. I'm joined by Steve Corey. Thank you so much for coming in.
Marty, thank you.
Really appreciate it very much. Now, you're running for the Board of Finance.
The Board of Finance in Richfield, right?
That august party.
And they are august.
And why in the world, what terrible spirit came over you and possessed you to want to run for the Board of Finance?
That's a very good question. But look, I'm a lifetime Richfield resident. Mm-hmm. I love my town. I want to see only the best things for my town. I have 4 kids. And I hope that they feel the same way about the town, that we can live there and they can raise their families there someday too. But I'm not happy with the direction that the town is moving in. Mm-hmm. It's been more spending, more taxes, more debt. And I'm getting very concerned that we cannot sustain this path that we're on. When we have $114 million of debt, that's the 3rd highest of any municipality per capita in the state of Connecticut. That's very problematic. It's very troubling. And we have to start taking a real look at what to do about this, start paying this down, stop running up the debt. There are very good projects on the horizon that we as a town should come together and think about and how we're going to pay for them. There's no master plan. We need a master plan. We need a plan that prioritizes all the projects we want to do and also addresses the debt situation.
Let me just ask you, because a true understanding. I'm on the Board of Finance. I have been for a while, so I want to get all my cards on the table so there's no hidden agenda. I think the world of this young man, and I think he'd be a great addition to the Board of Finance. That being understood, as far as the debt, it is an insurmountable dollar amount, and it's something that I'm concerned about as well. But what I've found is that you can have a conservative Republican that can decry the $14 trillion in national debt and say that's terrible. But if you then take that attitude and turn your gaze towards, say, the Board of Ed budget and say, you're going to have to get by with a 1.9% increase in your budget, not a 2.4% increase or whatever it is, and therefore I'm proposing a cut to the requested increase, the hue and cry is quite impressive. And they say, in the general concept, I'm against debt, and I think it's bad, and we need to cut it down. But if you touch that budget, or you touch this pet project, or they're going to try to build a library, and what about that? Or now they're saying we need to buy the Schlumberger property to control our destiny, so we don't have increased traffic. All these issues, incrementally on an issue-by-issue basis, there's a lot of support for that, even if it means adding to our debt. How do you slice it up that way?
Look, there's got to be a balance, right? Mm-hmm. The schools are extremely important. I'm a product of the Richfield Public Schools. Mm-hmm. I owe everything in my life to the Richfield Public Schools. We can't let the children down. We need to spend money on them. There should be foreign languages earlier on. We need to spend that money. That's not why our debt is out of control. Our debt's out of control because there was a wish list of projects we did several years ago in the bundle. We did it all at once, and now we have this insurmountable debt. And now we have other wish list items out there too that people want to finance all at once. Well, you can't do that. You got to make priorities. You got to set your priorities, and you got to stick with them. So yes, buying the Schlumberger property may be something that we as a town want to do and want to consider, but we already had that consideration back years ago, and we built new buildings and new facilities, and now we got to pay for that. You can't just keep building and building and building and spending and spending and spending without paying for it, right? We wouldn't manage our households like that. Mm-hmm. We wouldn't do additions on our house not pay for it and do another addition and just keep it running up this debt. The reason why we're in debt is not the school budget. It's not, we've got to do whatever it takes to maintain our excellent schools, maintain our excellent town services. And part of that is getting this debt under control, taking the $14 million a year in debt service and putting it to better uses.
Yeah. Let me ask you, tell me a little bit about yourself. Where'd you go to school? What do you do now? What do you do for a living? How does what you do for a living, how would you bring that skill set to bear on the Board of Finance?
Sure. Like I said, I'm a product of the Richfield Public Schools, having graduated from Richfield High School. Then went on to Fairfield University, where I obtained my degree in economics. And then went to Fordham University School of Law, where 13 years ago I met my future wife. And currently I'm a real estate attorney at Skadden Arps in New York. I've been there for about 13 years now.
Okay.
I have spent my practice in real estate finance. I have recently, over the last few years, and once the downturn started, really have been focusing on helping my clients deal with their debt. They're over-leveraged. I see firsthand what debt does to you.
Oh, so this sort of guides your thinking when it comes to the public sector as far as the debt that you see.
Well, it does. I've spent the last several years seeing firsthand how debt ruins good companies. Right? You get caught up in this real estate market. You think money is endless. You over-leverage, and then you've got a problem. Okay? I feel like as a town, we're now over-leveraged. And if we don't do something about that, we're going to get to a point where there's no return.
Yeah. So would you be bringing that skill set to bear on what goes on the Board of Finance?
Sure, absolutely. Look, I've spent many years dealing with rating agencies and securitizations. My practice traditionally has been originate large loans for commercial lenders. For example, we did a $7 billion loan, sliced and diced that up, securitized the mortgage loan, sold mezzanine components. I'm familiar with the debt markets, with the rating agencies firsthand, and I think I can bring that experience to the Board of Finance.
What about that? You know, that's one of the concerns we see again on the national level, anyways. That our AAA bond rating, at least by Standard & Poor's, was downgraded, and the effect that had. It wasn't exactly a confidence booster. The town of Ridgefield has always maintained, at least on my watch, a AAA bond rating, which helps us when we go out to bond different projects. But the rating agency sent out as a blanket cautionary letter to some of the other AAA, including Ridgefield, AAA rated municipalities in the state of Connecticut, and it caused us pause. It made us be concerned about that. How would you, as a member of the Board of Finance, assure that we would maintain that rating?
Well, look, I would stop bonding new projects and running up our debt until we get this current debt under control. Our peer towns generally have less debt per capita, and they have a higher fund balance. I mean, these are two concerning facts.
Right.
We are living very reliant on debt right now. It's critical that we maintain our AAA credit rating.
Right.
To the extent we don't, we're going to have to pay even more money to support this debt.
Well, right now, I think, and you might know better, I suppose I should know, we pay about $14 million a year. And by the way, if you have a question for the candidate, if you call 438-2003, we'll put you right on and you can ask whatever question you want. Is this your first time running for public office?
Well, I'm currently on the Zoning Board of Appeals.
Oh, okay. So this is this is old hat. But if you have any questions at all, don't hesitate to call and we'll put you right on. As far as the debt, right now we spend approximately $13 to $14 million annually just on debt service.
Right.
But it puts a pretty good ding in the principal as well as just interest. It isn't an interest-only payment. What would you see as a project that you could see your way clear to adding to the debt if we need to put on a roof at a school, if we need to, finance a newer, better, larger fire engine? What are some projects that you see that would be worthy of capital expenditure and using our ability to bond money?
Well, for example, there would be certain projects that would actually bring a cost savings, right? In the first years, let's say you had to spend several $1,000,000 to build a gas line to the high school. But right away in year one, you're getting $800,000 of cost savings from putting in that gas line. I think something like that would be a project that we would have to really seriously consider bonding. There are other projects out there that I know are on the horizon.
Right.
Maybe a new police station, a fire station, certainly a new library. Now, I'm not saying that we shouldn't do these projects, but I think we need a master plan. We need to know what the wish list is. We need to know what the time frame is for these projects, and we need to have a responsible way to pay for these. And I don't think it's all at once, and I don't think it should be immediate until we get this debt paid out.
Okay, so I mean, it's almost unfair to ask because it is sort of in flux, and it's hard to sit here in October of 2011 and say, okay, we can't do any of this spending until this date set in the future. But I don't want to hurt you because the people in Ridgefield might come down one side or the other on purchasing the Schlumberger property, one side or the other on enhancing and expanding the library. But you're running, and people want to know, where would you stand on the library? Are you gung ho for it? You think we need to do it, or do you have some caution?
Look, I would like to see a new library.
Do you like books?
I love books.
Do you
I
like
love
children?
To read. I've got 4 children of my own. I want a beautiful facility that they can go to, that they can spend time at, that's safe for children, that is state of the art. Yeah. But you know what? That's my wish. And you can't do everything you want to do. Just because it's a good idea and it's something that would enhance our town doesn't mean that's something we have to do or we have to do right away. Now, I understand that the current facility needs to be upgraded. And I know that upgrading the current facility may cost almost as much as what the library is looking for in order for the town to fund.
Right.
These are things we have to look at.
Okay, so you would be open to the proposal as it's
presented?
Certainly. And my understanding of it, we have an existing library. It is in desperate need of a new roof. You can go there, they'll show you it's leaking, it's leaking on the books. The foundation is crumbling, they'll show you that too. And some of the offices that they have in the basement, none of it is ADA compliant, among other things. And so they're saying, look, the town is going to have to fund $4 or $5 million just to renovate what's there. There's some civic-minded, philanthropic folks that have put together $15 million, which is no small chunk of change, and they're willing to put that with the town's $5 million to build something really spectacular. Does your fiscally conservative anti-debt stance, would it absolutely say I'm not in favor of that, or would it be more of a wait and see?
Look, I'm not absolute about anything.
Okay, that's what I'm
other than we need a plan, right? If we're going to do the library this year or next year, then we got to say, well, we probably can't do the Schlumberger property at the same time, and we can't do the fire station and the police station and all this. Let's just come up with a plan.
Yeah, I mean, my sense of it is, and you're right in saying, as a member of the Board of Finance, you can sort of hold off on things, say, does this make fiscal sense? But at the end of the day, at least in Ridgefield, things go out to referendum, and the people decide.
Which is the way it should be. That's how democracy works. And I'm not going to stand in front of that. If the people of the town of Ridgefield say that they want a library, then it's up to the Board of Finance to figure out how to do that in a responsible manner.
Right. But it's up to the Board of Finance to, before it goes out to referendum, say, does this make sense?
Right.
Does this make sense, or are we just piling too much debt on and we're drowning in debt and we can't afford it? 2 examples of that. One was the cell tower, where it seemed to make a lot of sense. I hate to say it because it was overwhelmingly defeated, because I must be out of touch with the electorate. But I thought, I hate getting cell phones dropped, cell lines dropped, and we need something in the north end of town, public safety and all the rest, but it overwhelmingly was voted down. Same thing with the police department. They needed to renovate that since the 1970s. I've taken a tour of it. For the female policemen, they literally change underneath the stairs in the basement. And it needed to be done, so we did our due diligence, see, is there any savings, put it out to the voters, overwhelmingly voted down.
Look, does the cell tower financially make sense? Probably.
Yeah.
But does it make sense to build it in the backyard of a neighborhood when the neighbors say that they don't want it? No.
Apparently not.
There are other alternatives out there, right? And I'm not sure that everybody on the Board of Selectmen heard those other, but look, Ridgebury needs cell phone service.
I think so,
right?
yeah.
You got to be able to make a cell phone call out of the high school. It's a safety issue.
Yeah.
I think you got to find some alternative methods to do it, and I'm sure there are alternatives out there.
Yeah.
Schlumberger property.
Yeah, that is red hot right now.
It's red hot.
We had a
Look,
meeting this afternoon, the Board of Finance and the Board of Selectmen on that thing.
It's an interesting concept. I don't think the town of Richfield has been traditionally a good landlord. I fundamentally don't think that a government should be buying a private property. But look, we have concerns. I hate traffic.
Yeah.
Right? I don't want to see 2,000 housing units being built on that property. I understand the concern. And I think it's in the long-term interest to purchase that property. But the plan that had been proposed before by the first selectman didn't seem to make sense. There was no transparency in this plan. You were giving a private developer all the best buildable acres, the ones without the environmental problems. He was going to build 50 housing units, which I don't think is a good idea, and he was paying very bottom of the market prices for it. Does that make sense to you? No, it doesn't make sense to me. If we're going to buy that Schlumberger property, I think that we should really consider buying the whole thing, holding on to it for a couple of years, looking at it as a real estate investment, and when the real estate market improves, and God, I hope it improves soon, then let's look at selling it off. Let's have a plan to do it. Let's sell it off then. Maybe even, make a profit on it.
Yeah.
And put that back into the budget. But the plan I heard presented was no plan.
Yeah.
They didn't know what they wanted to do with the property.
So it was rightfully voted down by the existing Board of Finance, would you say?
I think so.
All right. Well, gosh, you're making a whole heck of a lot of sense. What about your family, your extended family? You said your family, you grew up here in town. How is the spending and the taxes in town, how has that affected your extended family?
Well, I'm born and raised in Richfield, lifelong resident. I'm so privileged to be able to still live in Richfield and to be raising my wonderful family here. My wife Laura and I we have 4 children. Jack and Lily Beth, who are age 5, Caroline, age 3, and baby Steve, who's 8 months old. My parents about 6 years ago had to leave town. They're senior citizens. They were looking for suitable senior housing, which they couldn't find in Richfield, and they had to find a situation where there was lower taxes. We can't tax our seniors out of town.
Yeah.
It's all a balance, right? You have to maintain the best of schools because that drives the town, that brings people here, but you can't overtax, which drives people out.
Yeah, it's tough. It's not an easy balance to come to because I'm mindful if you've ever stood, and hopefully you will, or you already have. But if you ever stand in front of Stop and Shop and meet people, you'll meet senior citizens with tears in their eyes, and they say, "Please, hold down spending. I can't afford to stay here anymore. Please." I mean, they're pleading because they love Ridgefield. They want to stay here, but they just can't afford to do that.
My mother laments every day moving out of town. Yeah. But they couldn't find a one-level unit anywhere in town that they found affordable.
Yeah, but then on the same side, you have these, parents with small children, and they want what's absolutely best for their kids. Their kids are only going to, have the advantage of full-day kindergarten at one point in their developmental stage, and if you stand in the way of having that, you are considered, just trouble, and that's unfortunately the role of the Board of Finance from time to time is to say, hey, look, we've got to see, in light of tax collection and revenues not coming in from other sources like they do when the economy is booming, like conveyance taxes for real estate transactions and so forth, and you got to make the tough calls, and it's not easy. And for, on the one side, if you increase spending and increase taxes, then those senior citizens, their hearts are being broken. On the other side, if you say, well, I guess we're all going to have to learn to do more with less, and you're going to have to find some efficiencies within your budget, well then of course, wow, you don't like children, you don't like education. Are you sure you want this job?
Well,
it's not that
you're
easy
making me
to do.
You're thinking now. Yeah. Look, full-day kindergarten, it was a must. Other towns do it. I see the benefits that my kids get from it. It's critical. You got to invest in your children. You can't cut back on them. You don't get that time back.
Yeah,
they should be learning foreign languages early on. This is the way the world is heading. You got to put the money into the schools, but pay down the debt. Let's not continue to run up this debt so that we can take the debt service, put it to the budget, and maybe even lower taxes in the long run.
I think we were talking before, you know, if you, in your own personal income, you know, if 15% of your take-home pay was going to pay your credit card bills, you might say, hey, wait a minute, that's not the best use of my money.
Well,
it's more than what we're doing.
More than 15%, right?
Yeah.
Because that's the town budget.
Right.
Now you got to look at the federal budget, the state budget, and the town budget all combined. And things at the federal level and the state level are in bad shape.
Yeah, I mean,
right?
The one thing I always say is that I don't know what they're doing in Washington, I don't know what they're doing in Hartford, but in Ridgefield, we're going to live within our means.
We have to.
And I think you're a clear, fresh voice coming to the table and saying, look, we may be living within our means, we may have a AAA bond rating, but I think you said out of 169 towns in Connecticut, we're the third most indebted per capita, if you want to look at it that way. That's not a list we want to be on the top of.
Look, debt is a slippery slope, right? And we're on that top of the slope, and I feel like we're going down the hill fast towards a level that we can't sustain.
All right. Well, listen, I want to thank you very much for coming in.
Marty, thank you.
I wish you all the luck in the world. I really do. I think, you know, I just feel like the Republican conservative voice needs to be heard, especially when it comes to spending. And I appreciate you taking time away from your lovely wife. And but she's right off camera, but I'm going to ask her, is it okay that he runs? Is he in and you're ready to go?
Oh, he is loving this.
Oh, boy.
Well, come on in. Just for 1 second. Have a seat and just tell me briefly what this means. Does he miss dinners because he's off at different meetings and so forth?
Steve is a fabulous multitasker, so no, he usually makes dinner, but then he goes out after.
Now, if he gets elected, are you willing to, you know, have people look at you differently at the grocery store if he's talking about cutting a budget or anything like that?
Politics is tough. I've done a few things in my life, and I've faced off with people, so that is the tough part about it, and I hope we don't make any enemies, but we'll try and do what we think is best.
Excellent. Well, thank you all very much. Thanks again for
Mike.
coming in. Join us next week where we're going to have a lot of exciting stuff, same time, same station, and by golly, Knickerbocker, Cleary, don't cowboy up. Come on in here and debate because that's what the people want to see. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week. Goodbye.